How's it going, everyone? There we go. Now, my name is Michael Curry. You might have seen me on Twitter. I'm the president of the Chico State College Republicans. Now, if you're waiting for me to say my pronouns, you're in the wrong place. Before we get started, there's one very important thing that we must do, specifically as Americans, and that is the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I would like to introduce our Vice President, Elizabeth Turpening, to the stage.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Would we be able to get the video started?
You touch him again, I'll put that on one more fucking time. What the fucking wrong one? Don't ever fucking touch him again.
Quit touching our shit.
No. What you gonna do about it, huh?
What you gonna do about it?
I'm not doing shit. I'm
Neither am I.
protest.
I wish the fuck you would touch him one more time. I wish, yeah, baby.
Yeah!
Don't ever touch him again. Don't ever touch him again.
Fuck this little bitch. Fuck it. His mom should have swallowed him, bro. His mom should have kept him in the coochie. His mom should have had a fucking abortion, bitch.
Oppressed
Donald
victims.
Trump, bitch.
More oppressed victims.
Fuck you too, bitch. Fuck you and
You
your
don't have
fucking...
the right to call people a bitch.
I do have the right to call people a bitch.
How?
Fuck you, bitch, like that.
Why do you
like
have a
that.
right?
Freedom of speech, bitch.
I think you're getting a taste of what we're here for and what we're going to be doing. So tomorrow, Chico State University, the WalkAway event is going to be awesome.
It's gonna walk out of my fucking face! It's the fucking police! No, he's the fucking harassing! He's the fucking harassing!
Now, everybody, with a huge round of applause, welcome the founder of the WalkAway movement, Brandon Straka.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the revolution. This is the WalkAway Thought Revolution. The purpose of this revolution is to wake up angry little minds that have been hijacked by the propaganda of the mainstream media, the thoroughly empty and idiotic ideology of modern liberalism, and of course, the political party that can't survive without these systems in place. Young liberals, you now embody the very characteristics that I once became a liberal to fight against. In your obsession with identity and labeling, you have become the most racist, the most sexist, the most bigoted sect of human beings in America today. And with your liberalism comes great power and privilege. The identity victim hierarchy and the limitless freedom to say anything you want to anyone you want, whenever you want, has created within you a sense of entitlement to always be believed, even when you are lying, to always be deemed correct, even when you are wrong, and to always be applauded, even when what you think and what you say are endlessly, hysterically, and undeniably stupid. We are now living in a time and place where these angry, entitled, uninformed, and incredibly loud leftists have become so flamboyantly hysterical that a gay man had to step in to say, "Sweeties, you're being a bit much." And this same gay man had to create a national movement to shut down progressivism, the liberal media, and the Democrat Party. So how did we get here? How have we arrived in this place of two distinctly different Americas? Most of us here in this room exist in the America that previously, and sadly, didn't used to require the qualifier "in reality," while the other half exists in the America of CNN. Our president, they will tell you, is the most virulently hateful, racist man in the country. They can't think of a single positive accomplishment that he's made since being in office. You too are racist and hateful. I mean, the audacity of any of us to think that we have any kind of reasonable expectation that our government might enforce already existing immigration and border security laws. We have watched one of the two major political parties in this country devolve into complete insanity. Congress has wasted years accomplishing nothing, shutting down the government and spending over 2 years and over $30 million on a phony investigation, and now calls for impeachment of the greatest president of my lifetime. We have rich, privileged, black Hollywood actors so desperate to convince us of the prevalence of racism and homophobia coming from Trump supporters and the political right that they're putting nooses around their own necks in the middle of the night in sub-zero temperatures, and hiring other black people to pretend like they're white people and beat them up while chanting "This is MAGA country" in Chicago. Women who presumably may once have been sane have lost all run of themselves, gathering in large groups, wearing vaginas on their heads, and insisting that they are second-class citizens in their own country, while fetishizing women across the globe who are second-class citizens in their own country. College professors are now teaching courses such as the problem with whiteness, critical blackness, feminist economics for when math is too toxically masculine, and my personal favorite, queering the Bible. I guess I assume this one is a Bible studies class where Jesus identifies as a non-binary, femme-presenting demi-boy. My city, the city of New York, has passed a regulation banning hateful terms like illegal alien. You can now be fined up to $250,000 in New York City for saying, "I'm sorry, young Hispanic and black American men, but we don't have any jobs for you today because we've given them all to illegal aliens." The Anti-Defamation League added the OK hand signal and the bull cut haircut to the list of modern calling cards of hate. Now granted, as a gay man and a former hairstylist, I'm not conclusively opposed to illegalizing tragic haircuts. I actually consider many of Maxine Waters' wigs to be a hate crime against my retinas. But classifying bad hair as part of a larger fascist movement seems like jumping the shark just a tad. According to the current gaggle of Democrat candidates and their propaganda arm, the American media, the greatest threat to America today is the rise of white supremacy. That if you are a non-Caucasian in this country, you can't get from your house to the grocery store without being attacked, beaten, spit on, fired, banned, or blacklisted by a white nationalist. Gee, you'd almost think they must be wearing a MAGA hat. But let's probe into that one narrative just a bit further. A rising threat of a violent hate group in America that exacts physical attacks and social punishment, who is protected and enabled by a systematic power structure. Now why does that sound familiar? Let's break it down. In the 1920s, the population of America was 105 million people. At the same time, the membership of the KKK peaked with over 4 million members, or close to 4% of the total population. Today, the population of America is 327 million people. The current membership of the KKK is estimated at about 3,000, or 0.0009% of the population. This is not exactly an upward trend. Let's compare this with Antifa, the darlings of the left. Antifa, named disingenuously for the shorthand anti-fascist. Antifa's ideology is rooted in the assumption that the Nazi Party would never have come to power in Germany if people had more aggressively fought them in the streets in the 1920s and 1930s. Therefore, Antifa ensures that our society not become Nazi-like by showing up to free speech demonstrations with baseball bats, chains, bike locks, pepper spray, and beat people senseless whose thoughts and ideas they disapprove of. This is the group who beat journalist Andy Ngo, resulting in a brain hemorrhage. This is the group that prevented an 81-year-old woman with a walker from crossing the street while screaming that she is Nazi scum. This is also the group responsible for the doxing of many conservatives, putting people's safety and the safety of their children and loved ones at risk. And how about their numbers? Well, since the election of Donald Trump, membership of Antifa has grown exponentially. The New York Antifa Twitter account currently has 42,700 followers. The Philadelphia Antifa account currently has 15,600 followers, and that's just 2 cities. Those in the legacy media have endorsed and enabled Antifa time and time again. Journalists at CNN, MSNBC, and the other usual suspects have heralded Antifa as noble vigilantes, fighting against right-wing fascism and white supremacy, the fear-mongering tactics that they themselves made up. And how about the media? In 1971, 35% of journalists identified as Democrat, and almost 26% as Republican. Today, 7% of journalists identify as Republican. 7. 58% said they leaned somewhat to very liberal, and the remaining 35% were lying. The Democrat Party is no longer recognizable to many of us who used to support them. All focus now is placed on socialism, government control of nearly every aspect of our lives, and the prioritization of their new victim class, the illegal immigrant. Liberals and the mainstream media decry conservatives as heartless, uncompassionate bigots for supporting a border wall. They call our brave ICE agents monsters because, they say, those crossing our border illegally are only hardworking dreamers, fleeing broken countries in search of safety and a better life. Child trafficking is a fallacy concocted by racists to justify their panic about the inevitable shifting of racial demographics in America. In fact, the United States deported more than 256,000 people in 2018 alone, and of these, more than 145,000 were convicted criminals, and almost 23,000 had pending charges against them. Nearly 6,000 were reported gang members. It was revealed that 30% of the children at the border who were DNA tested shared no DNA with the adults claiming to be their parents. Democrats and the liberal media now refer to anything and everything that could shine a light on their deceit and corruption as conspiracy theories. Dare to speak about these facts, and you will be labeled a conspiracy theorist. Having already made terms like racist, sexist, and homophobe lose all meaning, this is their new term du jour to paint anyone who challenges the left as deranged. At the same time, they peddle their own deranged conspiracy theories. Russia hacked the election. Stacey Abrams is really the governor of Georgia. Russia is going to shut off the power grid, PP tapes and collusion, and Russian bots, rising hate crimes, and let's not forget the wage gap. Hillary Clinton recently said, and I quote, "Maybe there does need to be a rematch. I mean, obviously I can beat him again." Again. But don't forget, you are the deranged, illiterate, deplorable conspiracy theorist. This is the gaslighting of the modern leftist. They accuse all others of being what they themselves are doing. American wealth and prosperity has become a source of shame for those on the left. Many who have achieved it are now turning on themselves. Actress Rosanna Arquette hit a grand slam on Twitter recently when she proclaimed, I'm sorry, I was born white and privileged. It disgusts me, and I feel so much shame." Which then begged the question, who really has it harder in America, black people or white liberals struggling with self-hatred? The solution the left has come up with for societal inequities is socialism, but not socialism, democratic socialism, the good kind, not the eat your dog Venezuela kind. It's democratic, so we'll vote, baked or fried, before we eat your dog. The newest and most fringe leftist additions to the Democratic Party argue that socialism will work if we only give it a try. And technically, they are correct. The ultimate goal of socialism is economic equality. It is not about wealth creation, it is about wealth distribution. So, if we all go into it with the expectation that we're all going to come out equally poor and equally fucked, then huzzah, socialism works. And so again, I ask, how did we get here? Well, for starters, the media. I may be an expert of sorts on the manipulation of the liberal media because I am one of their former mental hostages, thoroughly brainwashed by the mainstream media. It's hard to know where the media ends and the Democrat Party begins, as they seem to be spinning in a circular continuum of deception. The Democrats lie and scheme, the media covers it up. The media accuses President Trump of doing everything that the Democrats are actually doing, and the Democrats use the bad press to attack and to bolster the legitimacy of their latest attempt to unseat the president. Rinse and repeat. But they've been very effective for a very long time. The media is keenly aware of a simple premise. If they can control how you feel, they can control how you think. And the best way to control a liberal is by invoking the notion of social injustice. For decades, the liberal media has managed to hypnotize and control the behavior of their audience by bombarding them with an endless barrage of stories designed to reinforce the narrative that if you are a person of color, an LGBT person, a woman, a religious minority, or an immigrant, that you are at the losing end of a powerful and indomitable system of victims and oppressors, that you are in constant danger, that you are unloved, unwanted, and unfit to have a place on the political right. That the American dream is not alive and well for you? No. Your vote is to be a defensive one, cast only to protect yourselves from the evils of those not on the right. This was a mindset that I bought into wholeheartedly. By now, most people know that I'm a former Democrat. I'm a once liberal who escaped the cult. My journey away from the left began with a jolting realization that the media that I trusted implicitly, the media that virtue signaled to me relentlessly that they were looking out for me as a gay man in this country, lied to me about Donald Trump. Specifically, they told me that Donald Trump mocked a reporter's disability, which he did not. In 2016, I voted for Hillary Clinton. When Donald Trump was elected, I was confused and outraged. How can America vote for a man who is so unfit, so unsound, and so morally objectionable? In January of 2017, I bitterly proclaimed on social media that I would never be able to understand how anyone could vote for a man who stood before a cheering crowd and mocked a reporter's disability. And that's when a woman I'd known my entire life, named Diane, sent me a video entitled "Debunking that Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter." Now, I got this video in my private messages on Facebook, and when I read the title, I became instantly outraged. I thought to myself, well, here we go again. This is more right-wing propaganda, more Fox News brainwashing. And then I became almost gleefully delighted that I could watch it and tell Diane how stupid she was for falling for it. Because after all, I was the more highly evolved liberal, and she was just a stupid, knuckle-dragging conservative. I watched the video, and what I saw next changed my life forever. It was a compilation of footage of a video about 3 or 4 minutes long of Donald Trump in numerous circumstances throughout the years, even long before he started running for president, doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture as he did that day when he was accused of mocking a reporter's disability. But the commonality in every instance of this behavior was that he was imitating somebody who was flailing because they were caught in a lie, because they had done something dishonest or shady. And it became very clear that this is a bit that Donald Trump does and has done for a long time, anytime he's making fun of somebody who's done something wrong. And that this had absolutely nothing to do with a reporter's disability whatsoever. Yes, that reporter did happen to be disabled, but Donald Trump was not mocking that reporter's disability. But this presented an even bigger conundrum for me, because if Donald Trump did not mock that reporter's disability, why did CNN tell me that he did? Because CNN had never lied to me before. So why did they start lying on that day? This sent me on a long journey of trying to understand what exactly was going on. Initially, I just reached out to fellow friends, coworkers, fellow liberals in New York City, and showed them the video and asked them what they made of it. What do you think is going on here? What happened? And the reaction I got was shocking. Suddenly, friends, family, coworkers, people who had known me, some of them since childhood, began treating me with great hostility and contempt. What are you doing? What, you're supporting Donald Trump now? What, you're turning to the dark side? What are you doing? I said, I'm not turning to the dark side. I'm not falling in love with Donald Trump. I'm just trying to understand what is going on. And it became quickly clear to me that I was not safe asking these questions. Just asking questions, trying to understand. So what I did instead was I got home from work at night and I would watch videos and do research and read articles and try to understand. And it began with one question: does the media lie? And how often, if so? And what I found was absolutely astounding. I went back to the beginning of Donald Trump's campaign, the very, very beginning, and I started watching all of those key moments in proper context, the entire speech, not just the isolated soundbite that CNN threw up saying that Donald Trump called all Mexicans rapists, or that Donald Trump wants to send black people back to Africa, or that Donald Trump wants to roll back LGBT rights. And what I found time and time again is that those little moments that they use to support those false narratives, if watch support him, a group of friends and family, and when they sat down and situated themselves in the auditorium, CNN moved the camera so that they wouldn't be in the shot and framed up a group of white people. Because God forbid, a group of black people would go and support Donald Trump at one of his rallies. Well, that's completely destructive to the white supremacist Trump rally narrative. Can't have that. So they have to lie. And they lie, and they lie, and they lie, and they lie. And I started to get it. It started to become very clear to me. I get it now. We're living in a completely false reality, created by the liberal media. The stories that they're telling us on the news every single night are designed to keep minorities in this country in a state of terror, completely afraid, because that is how they're able to control how we think and how we behave and ultimately how we vote. And that is how the Democrats stay in power. In my confusion and disorientation, I set forth on a mission to try to unravel the riddle of what was truly going on, and what I discovered was astounding. Donald Trump did not call all Mexicans rapists. Donald Trump did not mock a reporter's disability. Donald Trump did not attempt to ban all Muslims from America. Donald Trump is not trying to reverse gay rights. Donald Trump did not call Nazis in Charlottesville good people. So the obvious question then becomes why? Why does the media need their audience to believe these things are true? And the answer is simple. The corrupt fake news media exists to keep Democrats in power. In order to do this, they must control the behavior of minority groups. In order to control us, they have to keep us afraid at all times. And when the light went on for me, I found myself outraged and isolated. I was an unknown person trying to proclaim to anyone who would listen that I had found a glitch in the matrix. I had no money, I had no media contacts, no political connections of any kind. I was a New York City hairstylist holding on to a very dark, insidious secret: how to tell the world what I knew. Well, God above does not make mistakes, and he knew that hell hath no fury like a gay man scorned by the Democrat Party. I would not back down, I would not stop fighting, I would not be silent. In May of last year, I put out a 6-minute video detailing everything I had learned, everything I now clearly saw was wrong and unacceptable about the ideology of liberalism, the media, and the Democrat Party. And I single-handedly took on a mission to create a movement unlike anything that had ever been done before. A movement to break the chains of the Democrat Party. I started the WalkAway campaign. In WalkAway, real Americans of every background have come together in unity, support, and patriotism to walk away from the lies, the division, the hate, and the destruction to our country and our culture perpetrated by the political left. Those of us who have walked away from the Democrats now see how our beliefs, behavior, and blind allegiance to this party have directly contributed to bringing us here to this calamitous crossroads we find ourselves at today. Being a former liberal and getting red-pilled is like reading a murder mystery novel and finding out at the end that the killer is you. But of course, it is not just the media that has orchestrated the complete mind control of the left. Leftist takeover is everywhere: education, entertainment, social media, and in the public square. On one side, half the country must make a conscious debate about whether or not to leave their house wearing a red hat with 4 innocuous words on it. Meanwhile, the other half has carte blanche to express their political bias, including saying 2 words, dripping with hostility and contempt on national television. "Fuck Trump," Robert De Niro proclaimed with arrogance and stupidity at the Tony Awards, met with a standing ovation. It is the manipulation of an endless narrative of social injustice that has thoroughly hypnotized the left, coupled with the relentless messaging that America in its current state and historical iterations is so problematic that the only solution is to tear it down and start again, utilizing a globalist, socialist model with authoritarian controlled and restricted speech and the extinction of ideas that do not align with this agenda. And this is why they hate our president. Donald Trump saw so clearly what so many of us could not, and what so many still can't. He saw our country and our freedoms being chipped at and sold away, and he decided to stand up and fight for those who had nobody else fighting for them. Since President Trump was elected, 6.9 million jobs have been created, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs. Unemployment dropped to 3.5%, the lowest in 50 years. President Trump signed an executive order aimed at ensuring colleges uphold free speech by threatening to withhold billions in research funding to those who discriminate against conservative speakers, saying, "My administration seeks to promote free and open debate on college and university campuses." Trump's leadership led to the swift obliteration of ISIS, and his support of Israel is unparalleled. And perhaps Trump's most significant action to date, on October 27th of 2018, President Donald Trump tweeted out to the world, #WalkAway from the Democrat Party marches today in DC. Congratulations to Brandon Straka for starting something very special. In 2016, Donald Trump crushed a candidate that was considered unbeatable. He beat Hillary Clinton by 77 electoral votes. He took the presidency by a landslide, and he won without much of the black vote, the LGBT vote, the Jewish vote, or the Hispanic vote. And he will win again, even without those groups. But think about this. President Trump knows he can win without having to pander to minority groups. But every time he comes out on stage, he announces with great pride that African American unemployment is at an all-time low. Hispanic unemployment is at an all-time low. He has recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. His administration has set out on a mission to decriminalize homosexuality across the globe and eradicate HIV in the United States. This is not a president who panders to minorities because he needs them. This is a president who serves minorities in this country because he loves them. And he loves this country. We're all in this together. When any among us in this country falls, we all fall. It's time for Americans to move forward together in unity. In the WalkAway campaign, I've never told anybody joining our movement what they need to believe, who they need to vote for, or what party they must join. I don't tell people what to think. I only tell people to think, critically and independently, to not be pigeonholed by your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, or any other superficial factor that the political left uses to define us. WalkAway is a journey, not a destination. My goal is to wake up Americans to see the truth for themselves and to arm them with the knowledge that never again will anybody in this country walk away from the left alone. What started as a movement of one is now known across the nation and in many countries around the world. Tens of thousands of testimonials have hit the web from Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Muslim Americans, white Americans, men, women, LGBT, telling their stories of why they can no longer be a part of the hateful, divisive left. And lifelong conservatives and Republicans also make their testimonials, reclaiming the narrative of what it truly means to be a conservative in America. It's not about racism, bigotry, or xenophobia. It's about the fundamental belief that we live in a free country with a dream that has burned and shined brightly, even in our darkest hours. This dream is alive and available to anybody who wants to join us and be a part of this amazing nation. We want Black people, brown people, LGBT people to walk away from the groupthink and victim mentality of the left and join us at the table on the right. There is no such thing as being a victim just because of who you are. We all start at different points in life. We are all responsible for our own outcomes, regardless of your skin color, your gender, or your sexual orientation. The only person who can hold you back is you. WalkAway now has 500,000 strong who have joined our movement on all social media platforms combined. Those who walk away and those who walk with those who walk away have rediscovered civility, compassion, and respect. It is a slice of America exactly as America should be. In just one short year, we have seen tens of thousands walk away. We held the WalkAway March on Washington just before the midterm elections in 2018, which earned us a presidential tweet of congratulations by President Trump. We have crossed the country doing WalkAway town halls for minority communities, live speaking events, and kicked off our WalkAway Thought Revolution college campus tour. We provide voter registration at all of our events, and we have successfully changed the voter registrations of dozens of attendees away from the Democrat Party. We have created our own educational video series, The Hard Truth, dedicated to debunking liberal media lies and myths and leftist propaganda and addressing the issues most affecting our country today, in addition to our numerous town halls for Black, Hispanic, and LGBT Americans. And next month, we will launch our first WalkAway Jewish Americans Town Hall, and the month after that, our first WalkAway American Women's Town Hall, for those of you ladies out there who are sick and tired of being represented by third and fourth wave feminists and are ready to get rowdy about it. And we have so much more to do. We are not going to stop until we have woken up every American under the spell of the liberal left and get people thinking for themselves and voting based off of their best interests and not voting based on their not voting based on their identity. We're going to wake up those on the right as well. The era of the silent majority is over. It's time for the silent majority to become unsilent. We must speak up, step up, and fight for the soul of America. I'm going to fight as hard as I can. America is in peril, make no mistake, and it is up to you and me to rescue her. And with that, I want to encourage any young people in this audience today who identify as liberal, leftist, progressive, however you see yourselves, to please stick around, make your voices heard, ask questions, challenge anything that I've said that you feel like you have an issue with. I want to have this discussion with you, but there's something that I want to impart to all of you who are here tonight. And by the way, if you are on the left, a progressive, a liberal, thank you for coming. Give yourselves a round of applause. I'm very proud of you for showing up here tonight, because I know it's not easy to have somebody sit there and listen to somebody stand before you and denigrate everything that you believe in. Believe me, I've been there. But I appreciate you coming tonight, and I want to have that conversation with you, and I want to answer any questions that you have. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do with the WalkAway campaign, if you read the news, you would get a lot of wrong impressions about me, my organization, and what our ultimate goals are. Believe it or not, The ultimate goal that I have and the ultimate goal of the WalkAway campaign is to offer people more freedom, more power, and more individualism. I want to empower minorities in this country. I don't want to hurt anybody. I want black people, brown people, LGBT people, immigrants, and religious minorities to see you don't have to be a part of the collective tribal mentality and the groupthink. You don't have to allow your decisions to be made for you by a political party, by an ideology, or by the media. You can think for yourself, you can be an individual, and you can live the life of your dreams if you take responsibility for your own life and your own actions, and you walk away from the victim mentality and oppression mentality of the left. With that, I'm going to wrap up here tonight because there's somebody else, a good friend of mine, who's going to come out and speak to you all, someone I'm very excited about. You should be excited about, she's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a very good friend of mine and an amazing, strong, empowering individual, Ms. Blair White.
Hi. Oh, there's a lot of you. Okay, hi. So Brandon, I feel like, took very much a high road when it came to sort of all the stuff that's gone on before this speech. She was very structured. I don't think I will be. Probably gonna speak from the heart a little bit. So I'm actually from Chico. I should say that first. This is my hometown. So it's really surreal. I moved to LA after my career kind of started, so it's really cool to be back here, and I'm so thankful for you guys showing up. That's the first thing. I always get very nervous before I do these. I'm like, what if no one shows up and it's just protesters? That'd be really bad. But I want to speak to the fact that my career actually started because of Chico. So I was living in Chico at the age of 21, and I was going to school here, and I felt like it was just very hostile to speak my mind, hostile on other people's parts. Like, I felt like any opinion I said that didn't align 100% perfectly with my peers, my friends, and obviously just the liberals on campus here, it was suddenly a huge problem. And I wanted to also speak about the fact that GSEC, which is the LGBT group on campus, they are the ones in part protesting outside. That is the LGBT group. And when I started my channel in 2016, they actually would hold viewing parties here on campus, GSEC, watching my videos and bashing me, little parties for them. So it's very interesting that they would choose to protest a gay guy and like a trans woman speaking. I think that's kind of weird, right? Apparently the talk is that I'm transphobic and Brandon's homophobic. Don't really know how that makes sense, but again, it was Chico that really inspired me to start my channel because I felt like there was no outlet really here in real life, and I feel like a lot of you guys can maybe relate to that. Maybe not the people that are in, the club that threw this event, but a lot of you guys just on campus and around town. There's very much a groupthink mentality, and first of all, I know Brandon thanked a few people in the audience as well, and I want to do that too, that those of you that came that disagree with us and are just sitting and being normal human beings right now instead of being outside screaming profanities and harassing people, I thank you for coming. We really want people who disagree with us to come here. We don't want to just talk at you guys and, get no back and forth. So thank you for coming. So I started my channel here, and again, the groups on campus that are supposed to fight for people like me would hold viewing parties, bashing me. And so in a lot of ways, Chico is sort of, the cause for the reason everything I'm doing. So I started my channel. My first video was actually just me being slightly critical of feminism, which is so crazy why it caused such a problem here on campus. And obviously things have evolved since then, and I do more political content now. But it's very interesting because a lot of the talk from the protesters outside was how we're making people feel unsafe by being on campus, that we're causing, issues with particularly trans people on campus and people of color on campus, and that they are unsafe because we're here. Meanwhile, we had to hire all of these orange suits. We had to hire personal bodyguards to even walk into the building. I've received threats of physical harm from multiple GSEC students just for coming. And I think that's very telling. It's interesting how, there's very much a narrative that anyone with right-leaning views, conservative views, or frankly, even just slightly not liberal views, are viewed as bullies. Yet and still, I wasn't even able to walk on. I wanted to come to campus yesterday and see sort of what was going on. Apparently there was people being assaulted. I wanted to speak to the fact that Michael, the president of the Chico GOP, was assaulted. I think that's disgusting. I think that there is, and I feel like I can kind of say this since I'm from here, I can kind of say that there is a disease on campus. There is a disease, and that disease is groupthink. It's the most primitive form of interaction with others. It is this hive mind. The people outside do not want you to think for yourself. The people outside want you to bend the knee. The people outside, there's no room for nuance or gray areas or anything of the sort when it comes to anything. And the funniest part is that I feel like a lot of people outside don't even really know much about us. I feel like, if you were to watch any of my videos, you wouldn't think I'm transphobic. If you were to watch any speeches Brandon has done, you wouldn't think he's any of those things as well. But unfortunately, we have these scary words attached to us, words like Republican, words like conservative, and that automatically makes us the bad guy, right? It automatically doesn't matter who it is, this person is the devil coming on campus. And again, sort of pretending as if the people outside are the ones that are unsafe when we're the ones who had to hire security to come here. It's just, it's very interesting. The theme of this event is thought revolution. And again, I've been doing these WalkAway events with Brandon, which are so amazing. We've done LGBT town halls where just the most badass LGBT people come to those. And there is a fragment of the LGBT community that's absolutely not open to any nuance of thought, but there is a growing trend of people who are, and a lot of them are in this room, which is amazing. So I've been doing these WalkAway events, and I've been sort of thinking like, okay, WalkAway. It's not my movement, but I am proud to be attached to it, and I'm so proud to work with Brandon because he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. But I'm thinking, so if I'm doing these WalkAway events, what am I telling people to walk away from? What does WalkAway mean to me? And for me, I'm not telling you what to walk to. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I know who I'm voting for, but I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you to walk away from any person, group, force, political party, whatever it may be, that tells you how to think. Period. That's it. And again, there's sort of a little bit of a controversy within the Republican Party of like catering to minority groups, or should we even be discussing that we have all these factions of minorities that are conservatives? And for me, I actually like speaking to the fact that there are, technical minorities in the party because they don't get spoken to. Brandon and I have done WalkAway LGBT town halls that have been obviously protested like this one, but we've had Antifa come. We've had violent protesters that show up in masks, they show up with bike locks, and they threaten to kill people. And if you know anything about my audience is particularly young. So it's always very interesting to have these events where, we're inside and obviously we have the security and that's fine, but I have all these 15-year-olds and these 16-year-olds who are outside, hi 15-year-old, these young kids who are outside with grown men and women with bike locks across the street, and yet those 15-year-olds are the bullies, and yet we are the bullies. No. And so again, thank you. And so again, I don't tell anyone how to vote. I don't tell anyone what to believe. I just tell people, believe in something authentically. Believe in something on your own volition because, and I hate to keep bringing it back to Chico, but I feel like it's relevant. Here, it's particularly hard to do that. My third video ever was about, oh my God, you guys are gonna die. It was about, I won't name names, I guess. No, I won't name names. But no. It was about this kid I met who was a Chico State student, and we used to have a lot of house parties at my house. My house was like the party house. And we had a lot of LGBT people come. That was sort of the friend group they were in, right? And this one particular kid came, and he was what's the term? Okay, he was born female, then became a trans guy, then went back to female, then went to non-binary, then went to trans guy, and expected everyone to keep up with it. I couldn't really, and I'm trans. But he came to one of the house parties, and he walked into the house. He had the biggest mental breakdown I've ever seen a person ever go through. And it was because the walls were blue, and he was triggered by the color blue. And he said, "It's because I'm triggered by blue." So that actually really inspired a video as well. The fact that there are just so many students on this campus that simply cannot, I don't want to swear, that cannot handle opposing opinions at all. At all. They wanted to shut this down. Every event we've ever done, it's been the hardest time to even get it to go. We've done events in New York where the venue owner would cancel last second because of one angry tweet from someone with a mask threatening. We've had events where we've had to leave because of violent people outside. And it's escalating here in Chico, and it's really sad because, and it's interesting, right? Because this is technically a red area in California, right? This is Northern California. So there's this very interesting dichotomy to where I feel like a lot of maybe the older people, the adults, are Republicans, and then you have this really rabid group of younger liberals that, I mean, Melissa, who is amazing and on the WalkAway team, she was sexually assaulted on you guys' campus yesterday for simply coming and talking about this event. I mean, I don't know if we've even really talked about that, but one of the guys who were protesting got up in her face and pulled out his penis. And that was somehow something acceptable in the minds of both him and everyone around him, and including some of your professors. The professors were out there, and they, I don't know if they organized it or if they're just attending, but either way, that's an interesting, quite toxic thing to bring up as well. The fact that it's not just these 20-year-olds who can't control their emotions in their hands and their genitals, it's the teachers as well. What's a lie? There were teachers there. We have them on camera. Well, I know. My point is that there were teachers there who didn't stop it. Well, I'm saying there were a lot of people and there were a lot of acts that weren't stopped. Maybe the person who pulled out his penis was eventually stopped. I didn't see that on camera, and it was a long video, so it wasn't stopped right away. But regardless, there were teachers there who were at the very least condoning it and at worst encouraging it. And that's what I saw on camera. So we can talk about it more in the Q&A, but that is what I saw on camera. Regardless, what I'm saying is that the people who are fighting for tolerance, the people who claim that we are the intolerant ones, are actually the most intolerant. And I'm not talking about any of the people who disagree with us in this room, because I think, again, you're awesome for coming and being polite, and that's great. The people who, did everything in their power to shut this down, that's a different case. I'm not like Brandon. I didn't have a long speech prepared. I just kind of speak from the heart. So I think I'll bring on the Q&A right now. And again, we don't only want to hear from people who like us. So please, everyone, feel comfortable. And I think we're ready for Q&A, right? And then a meet and greet afterwards at the backdrop. So bring back Brandon.
I guess one of the things I want to say is that I believe I'm pretty open-minded. I'm a sociology professor here. I've been a member of this campus for 20 years, and I welcome the distinction in the difference of opinions. I guess what I really want to say is that it sounds like y'all are doing exactly the thing that you're accusing the other side of doing, which is you're using a lot of extreme examples. Even the clip you showed was of a student. It was one student who was at the center of this. There were a handful of students who behaved in a way that y'all may see as reprehensible, and they're not being lauded by the campus community at all. I guess ultimately, here's what I want to say is, we can have a conversation about these things, but we've all got to be honest. The left, the right, everybody. And when everybody's using a lot of extreme examples, it becomes problematic. And the final thing I want to say, because I know my time's almost up, is what I'd ultimately love if you all could do, and if everybody in this room could do, is to listen to the rage underneath the screaming. That people are angry because they're upset, they're hurt. there's a lot of rage, and it seems like what we're doing is tone policing. We're focused on the rage rather than trying to understand what's beneath the screaming. And I just hope that we could do better.
I would say that I would agree that it's extreme examples if it didn't happen every single time we do one of these. It's not so extreme when it's expected and happens every single time. And yes, it was one student who went as far to sexually assault someone, but I don't think that it's wrong to bring it up, especially when there are 10, 20 more that were doing everything else under the sun, screaming in people's faces, putting their fingers in people's faces, you know, and I understand what you mean about listening to the rage underneath, but these people aren't really interested in having conversations, which is why, I mean, you are, but the people who aren't and the people who were doing the things we're talking about, they're outside right now when they could have come in and talked. They're outside screaming at people, calling us everything under the sun. So it's different. I mean, it's not like this is like we've had 50 events and this one time something happened. It's like it's every single time and it's dozens of people every time, and there's about 50 people outside screaming and making really serious threats outside. So.
That wasn't really what I was saying. I'm not asking you necessarily to have conversations with people who don't want to have conversations with you. I guess what I'm asking is that you study the rage and study and try to understand it. They're not going to listen to you, but that's not most people. That's not necessarily the left. And I guess I'm just concerned about what feels like a lack of transparency and honesty around this. And because it's not the left. There are millions and millions of us, quote unquote, on the left, and we don't all represent one perspective.
Well, I don't think we've said that is the entirety of the left. At least I didn't. But it is something that's a problem on campus and has been since I've lived here since the very beginning. It's a real problem that I feel like the left, I mean, to bring it to the grand scale, isn't addressing really at all.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thing that you said that I think is really relevant and something for all of us to look at is to try to avoid the hyperbole. And I recognize that. I recognize that does exist on both sides. The tendency to use the most extreme examples and categorize that as the norm. But here's what I would say, and I'm really being honest here when I say this, is I don't see or hear a lot about groups of Republicans going and chaining doors so that people can't hear a Democrat speaker. I don't hear about Democrat voices being silenced. I don't hear a lot about young Republicans who are going out and beating people up because of the hat that they have on their head or the shirt that they're wearing or because of the opinion that they're expressing. I'm hearing that a lot from one side, the other side, and it's very real. It happened in Berkeley. They have, just the other night, Ann Coulter spoke. Now, you can feel however you want to about Ann Coulter. Frankly, she's not like my favorite conservative. I think she's pretty extreme. But I'm not gonna go and like beat the hell out of somebody and prevent them from being able to go and listen to this woman talk.
Neither will I.
No, I know that you seem very reasonable. You seem lovely. I'd love to go have a drink with you after this. Like, I'm sure, like, we probably agree on nothing, but you're like a normal person, and that's it's cool. But I'm just saying that I don't think that both sides are like balanced in that particular way, and so I mean, I'm drawing attention to. And bear in mind, I used to be a liberal. I mean, I felt pushed away by these very behaviors. The behaviors that I described in my video and things that happened yesterday on this campus and things that are happening at Berkeley all the time, there is an entitlement now that people on the left feel, and this addresses your second point, which is what is behind the rage. Now that is something that I take very seriously because I am not a conservative who believes in triggering liberals for fun. I don't believe in poking fun at people's hurt and the pain that they're feeling. I know what they're feeling because I used to feel it too. I mean, I'm a gay man who experienced a lot of homophobia in my life, violence, bullying, really bad stuff. And I know, I mean, I used to be triggered by Christians. Just if somebody said, oh, I'm very faithful, I used to be like, oh my God, does this person hate me? Does this person want to vote against my rights? This person, and I was extremely defensive. The problem is, we're living in a time now, the media is misleading people so badly. I mean, I'm sorry, it's very difficult when I hear people of color telling me how triggered they are when they see a MAGA hat. When every MAGA hat wearing Republican I know is the nicest, most welcoming. Yes, darling, your eyes are bugging out right now, and I see that. Yes, and by the way, there's a lot of black people who wear MAGA hats too. And there's one right there. Unfortunately, CNN cuts them out of the shot, so you never get to hear about that.
Okay, we are going to move on to the next question. Just a reminder to everybody, we have a lot of people wanting to ask questions, so we're going to limit everybody's time on the mic to 1 minute. We'll make sure to
Including me and Blair. Sorry.
We'll try to give you guys a little bit more time to respond, but we want to address everybody's comments, everybody's questions. We'll also try to push for a question to make sure that it can be a discussion going forward. So just a reminder.
Hi, I guess I'm just curious to know how you both feel, but maybe specifically Blair, about how the Republican table had a whiteboard written pointed toward one of the main people that you showed in your video, because that's what it was targeted toward, about how can you even be trans and a Trump supporter. I just want to know what the message was, if you guys are trying to get people on your team as far as explaining your movement and things like that, and they're bringing you here. What's the message? How do you feel about that? I just don't understand. If you're trying to get people on your team, I just feel like that's a little degrading for a person. So I'm just curious to know how you feel.
You think it was degrading because of the Instagram post where they said, I mean, it was, you're talking about the Instagram post, right?
No, there was a whiteboard that they had next to their table, and it was probably about the second day of the protesting, and it said, "Can you even be trans and a Trump supporter?"
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, they did an Instagram post that was almost identical where it was asking people's opinion, can you be both? And I think that, I don't really know what you're talking about. I know about the Instagram post, for which I think it's a valid question, and I think that a lot of people would wonder if it's antithetical to each other. I'm not degraded by it. I'm trans and not degraded by it. I don't know if you are for me or something, but I'm not degraded by it.
I'm wondering if you find that they were pointing it to be offensive toward him, the person they were aiming it toward. They made it after the day he was protesting.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm not following the particular story that you're telling, but I think I'm following the question that you're asking, which is essentially, Blair and I both identify as Republicans now, and I think you're asking how do we feel about the fact that a Republican group is basically, in your opinion, degrading trans people, maybe, or LGBT people, and how do we feel about that, or do we find that to be contradictory?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so here, that's a great question. And short answer, yeah, I do. I think that any Republican who has a problem with gay people or trans people is pretty stupid. And I think that they have a lot of work to do and a lot of growing up to do. But I think it's healthy to ask the question and to put that out there. And because this is what bothers me so much as a gay man, is I have like 90+% of the gay community like ripping me a new asshole every day for being a Republican and being like, we're cutting you off, you're not a part of us, you can't, like, how dare you do this, whatever. And I'm thinking, is this really, like, so is the desire that you have healthier, that basically that we as gay people only get to have one choice for the rest of time? Like, isn't it better to at least have a few of us like walk away from the herd and have conversations with people on the other side so that we can begin to change hearts and minds, and that eventually it's not even an issue anymore, which, by the way, I don't really even feel like it is an issue anymore for the vast majority of people. But if there are Republicans who are asking questions like, can you be gay and conservative? Can you be trans and conservative? Let's answer those questions and let's change hearts and minds.
I think it's very valid of a question. I don't find it degrading at all. And one thing I actually find a little more degrading is how so many people are degraded, like, for me. Like, people, I find a lot of people on this campus, especially just based on the messages I got, seem to be offended about a lot of things for me that aren't trans. So that's what I find a little more interesting.
I understood. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Also, to address your accusation that we targeted a student, we came out with the slogan, "Can you be trans and a Trump supporter?" on November 4th. The incident you're referring to was this week. So thank you very much. Next question.
Am I close enough? Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Veronica. More of it was a question towards the WalkAway movement. So, hi, Brandon.
Hi.
So, I want to mention my situation when I was in 2015. I walked away, and I was just really scared about how I was going to. On Facebook, all my friends would ask me all these questions. I never really could back up my those questions with any valid answers because I didn't know what to say if it sounded stupid. Every time I would answer, all my friends would post all these fake media articles, and it just left me clueless. So, and all next year is 2020, and the election's coming up, and what would your best recommendation be for those conservatives that want to walk away and that what would be your tip for helping them best be able to explain for themselves to
Defend their
friends?
positions.
Huh?
Defend their positions.
I'm sorry.
For conservatives to defend their positions. Is that your question?
Yeah, defending myself, basically.
Yeah. So I would say if you're a person who perhaps doesn't have the gift of like being super spontaneous in the moment, or like, look, it gets your blood pressure up when somebody's arguing with you, and sometimes you're just minding your own business and like having a perfectly lovely day, and then somebody starts arguing with you, and it's like your thoughts just are not aligned properly in your head, and it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming for anybody. Like, and I get that. So I would say boil it down to the simplest possible 2 or 3 terms in which you can respond. And this sort of ties into something that I've been telling as many people as I could tell, because as a former liberal, I can tell you the biggest obstacle that conservatives have to fight against is the notion that they're uncompassionate, uncaring, self-interested, bad people who are uncompassionate, who don't care about other people. I'm trying to tell as many conservatives as possible when I go around and do public speaking that we must rebrand conservatism as compassionate, as caring. The reason why we believe in the policies that we believe in is actually because they're good for people, we care about people, and that these policies work for everybody. It doesn't matter your skin color, gender, sexual orientation, etc. Conservative policies will lift up anybody. They will work for anybody who works them. And so I would say, at the very least, have 2 or 3 sentences always planned in your head that revolve around the idea that the policies that you believe in because you care about people and you think that it's compassionate and kind, because that's what conservatism actually is, despite what the media says.
Hello, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. So it was interesting being here. I actually agree. I found myself clapping. I agreed with some of your principles.
He's walking away.
Oh, no chance. I agree with your principles, and I think we share a lot of the dissatisfactions, the global corporate capitalist elite, the biases of the media. When I talk to my Bernie people, we're saying the same things. We're walking in different directions. So my comment, the way you talk about liberalism, that's not Bernie. Your description of socialism, completely wrong. I've studied it pretty extensively, and I would say you need to educate yourself.
Me or her?
Well, you didn't talk about it. You did. Socialism was brought up once, and it was a straw man, total mischaracterization. That's not what Bernie stands for. So us Bernie people will be out here too, and I appreciate the willingness to dialogue. That's what we want to do too. So some of the core values I think we share, I would welcome a dialogue. So I hope on campus we can have that. So question, Bernie, why not?
I'm sorry, what?
Why not walk away to Bernie Sanders?
Because it's more of the same pandering and everything that I'm against. First and foremost, I find all of the Democrats incredibly disingenuous.
He's not a Democrat, he's an independent.
Well, I see him I'm seeing him at the Democratic debates on that stage.
I'll sit down.
No, you can say that. That's fine. You didn't do anything wrong.
I'm going to be tempted to argue. So.
I mean, he's running as a Democrat. Right.
to transform the party.
Okay. But I'm saying that as somebody who's running as a Democrat, I find all of them incredibly disingenuous. Now, when we watch the debates, they're talking constantly about the needs of trans people. They're talking constantly about, it's the same fear-mongering and the same talking points that are designed to keep minorities in this country believing that they're marginalized and oppressed. These are the same people who are doing town halls and CNN for the LGBT community and talking. I mean, it's just the same pandering crap. And once you lift the veil and you see what the media is doing and you see what the Democrats are doing, you can't unsee it. It's all bullshit. Like, I'll take any day of the week. I would take the staunchest Republican telling me I have a problem with gay people before I would have a Democrat tell me how much they love LGBT people this week, even though they didn't last week when it wasn't popular to do so. I'd rather be dealing with somebody who can look me in the eyes and be honest. And I think that the Republicans embrace a lot more honesty. I think the Democrats don't embrace honesty whatsoever. And as far as the socialism thing, you're probably right. I think I probably have a lot to learn about socialism. But one thing that I do know is that for every socialist who's running for president, including Elizabeth Warren, none of them can answer the question, how are you going to pay for this shit? None of them can answer that question. Can you? Can you?
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear.
Sure. Medicare for all, free college.
Yes.
How are we going to pay for it?
I can't even begin to answer that in this forum here.
Well, you should run for president.
No, it's possible. It's possible. We can't engage in this gotcha thing. What you're saying...
It's not a gotcha
isn't-
thing. I mean, that's the platform
No,
of Bernie Sanders.
It's possible. And us democratic socialists, we're here, and we would like to discuss it more in depth. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying.
I appreciate
Thank
you
for being
coming.
here, though.
I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.
Can I walk off that when I'm done, or do I go backwards? Okay. Hi.
Hello.
I'm a huge fan of both you guys. I love you both. I'm also evangelical Christian, so we're supposed to be from enemy communities. My question is, and both you guys I consider heroes for doing what you do, because when I speak, I'm considered the most hated community, so nobody cares what a straight white Christian male thinks, but you guys can speak to other people. How can we get both communities to communicate with each other and realize we're not enemies and we're on the same side and we want what's best for each other?
Well, one of the things that I'm super proud of is the fact that, I'm a YouTuber and my audience is super, super diverse. Like, there's this kind of view of me that my audience isn't, that it's all people like you only, but it's actually a lot of different people that are having conversations all the time. And what I've learned is that, to what Brandon said earlier, compassion is important. And the fact that we don't come out here and again, just treating people badly for clicks and views or, triggering people for fun, just opening dialogue, you'd be surprised how far you can get by just being a little nicer. And it can get frustrating when you always have to be the bigger person. Like if we were communicating with the people outside right now, I don't know, you could be the bigger person. I think that's kind of by default. But just being the sort of beacon to open dialogue that you want others to be, and then those people will come to you. Just being open, that's it.
I think as it pertains to the devout, more conservative religious community and LGBT people, it is tricky at this point, I think, still navigating that relationship in certain areas. But at this point, I truly believe that the onus is on the LGBT community to lighten the hell up a little bit. And let me tell you why. In 2015, the Supreme Court decided that marriage equality was the law of the land. Law of the land. And for me, as a gay man of a certain age, that was the finish line, I thought. I mean, I was there on the front lines all along fighting for equality for the LGBT community every step of the way. And when the Supreme Court made that decision, that to me was one of the final hurdles where it was okay, from an aspect of equality, we're basically at this point on the same page as every other human being in this country. And the truth is, as time goes on, we're more and more normalized all the time. There's not that many people who care anymore if somebody's gay, or it's like, oh, what? A gay person, oh my God. Like, you don't really experience that much anymore. And so my feeling is, if we have religious groups in this country, and by the way, it's not even all religious groups are opposed to LGBT people. I mean, there are a lot of religious groups who will perform a gay marriage in their church, but if there are those that don't, let's leave it alone. Like, LGBT people, leave it alone. We don't need to be forcing everybody to celebrate us, to embrace us, and most people I know who will say, listen, to me, marriage is between a man and a woman, or marriage, I have a biblical view of marriage. They have no problem having a gay person over to their house for dinner, having a gay person stay in their house, going out and being friends. Like, they just have a biblical view of marriage. And who the hell cares? Because at this point, we have the same civil rights as everybody. We should be happy about that. Leave it alone. So I just feel like the onus is on my community at this point to say, if religious people feel that our relationships are not biblically ordained as they feel that heterosexual relationships are, then let's just be okay with that and look at all the other things that we do have in common and celebrate that. That's what we should be dealing with at this point.
Hi, I just want to say that I'm a really big fan of you guys both. So my question is, I'm the president of Politically Active Teens Club at my high school, and I was wondering if either of you have anything to say to politically active teens like myself about anything, just anything you have to say.
I would say it's amazing that you guys are politically active at such a young age. I certainly wasn't. It took me becoming an adult to even care. It took me becoming an adult to realize, oh, these policies are actually affecting me. I'm not living with my parents anymore, So I think it's amazing you guys are involved at such a young age, and especially doing it in high school. So just keep killing it is what I would say.
Agreed. Also, I just want to say that I really love that I think that you're breaking down so many stereotypes and preconceived notions about, first of all, about young people and how young people feel politically. I'm not going to lie, and I hope this doesn't make you feel bad. I peeked out from behind the curtain and I saw you sitting here in the front, and I was like, oh my God, there's a girl in the front with pink hair. She's going to give us a hard time through this whole thing. Just whatever. And so I love, I think it's really true that conservatism is the new counterculture. I mean, we are now kind of on the fringe a little bit, not in a bad way, but I mean, we are the ones, I think, we're the ones pushing for free speech. We're the ones pushing for more freedom and more boundaries. That used to be liberals in the 80s. I mean, in the 80s, it was always my liberal friends who were wanted more free speech, more push the boundaries of what we could get away with music and culture and things like that. And now it's liberals who are ban speech, ban this is offensive, this hurts my feelings, this whatever. So keep doing what you're doing because you're awesome, and I think what you're doing is totally punk, it's totally counterculture, and it's totally cool.
And I love your shirt.
Hi, my name is Milo Kyler, and I haven't seen you before, but now I know your point of views, and I'm actually a fan.
Thank you.
I agree, and I've been watching you since I was a little baby trans boy, So, you kind of shaped who I am today.
I guess I'm old.
I don't think so, but it's also nice to know that you came from my hometown, and I had no idea, because it just something's nice about that. But my question's more aimed at you, and I have another one for you later. What age did you know that you were trans, and what advice do you have for the trans youth now today?
I would say I knew I was different at a very young age. I was 4 years old, and even the kids in preschool would look at me like, something's different about this one. So I knew I was different at a very young age, but I didn't really have the language to say, oh, it might be this, which is trans, until I was maybe 18 or so. And then it was another 2 years to get the courage to transition. So that happened at 20. And then as far as advice, I would say, please don't feel pressured to make any medical transitions at like 12, 13. I feel like it's a little too young in my opinion. People hate me for saying that, but I think it's too young.
I agree. I completely agree.
Because it does sterilize you, and you're removing your opportunity to potentially have kids in the future, and you're making that choice at 12, which I think any rational person would think is a problem. But also just live your life, be authentic, don't hide who you are ever, and don't feel pressured, again, a theme of this entire thing, don't feel pressured to believe any certain thing just because you're trans. I think that's an incredibly toxic thing. And if I fell into that mindset, I wouldn't be here today. So probably that.
Well, personally, I've always struggled with people disagreeing with my views because I have the same as you. And it's always a struggle because I'm sitting here with views that I would love to debate on. And I always have conversations with people who have the opposite views as me, but it's always as if I'm in the wrong, as if I'm the monster out of everything when I'm just openly trying to, debate and see if I'm open to change my mind, But everyone else seems to not agree.
I can relate.
It's a really nasty thing. I'm just going to say a quick comment. It's a really nasty thing that our community does to itself, to each other, that if you are someone like Blair or you are someone like me, the first accusation that they go to is that we're self-loathing, that we hate ourselves, that we can't accept ourselves for who we are. First of all, I am unabashedly gay and very, very happy about it. Number one. And number two, no issue whatsoever. I'm totally cool with the fact that I'm gay, and I've known it for a long, long time. But it's a tactic that I think that people use to try to make us feel like we don't have a choice. And it's so sad, I think, to know that we in our own community are actually oppressing ourselves. That's not coming from outside.
It's true, it's sad.
And it's very sad that particularly, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I might. It's very sad that particularly the narrative of trans people has to be, I hate my life, I'm miserable, I hate how I look, the world hates me, the world is responsible for all my problems. And that person somehow doesn't self-loathe, but I'm sitting here saying, I'm taking control of my destiny, I'm being myself, I'm thinking for myself, and I have my own career. Somehow that means I'm self-loathing. It's very backwards, I'll just say that.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank you guys for coming out here and speaking with us. It's definitely a challenge to kind of navigate these sort of situations. I found out today with my own twist of fate. But my question is, so just thinking way back, I'm remembering things when Obama was president of like the Obama's Hitler, they put this mustache on him and everything. Do you think this is so much a liberal issue, but just adult babies lost the election and whoever is on the downside of it is upset now?
I think anything like the response we're seeing right now to a president of the United States. I was an Obama, I voted for Obama twice, and I quite literally hated Republicans at that time of my life. And I can say Republicans never reacted to Obama the way that liberals are reacting to Trump. This is insane on a new level.
So
I think, of course you saw a little bit of it, and it's not like it didn't exist, but it's like the scale is just completely different. It's not even, in my opinion, remotely comparable. No. I agree with what Brandon said, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see there is a definite difference, like an upscale of how intense it got. So I guess this kind of a second part is what could we even do about it? Because it's not like we can completely destroy the two-party system, but if we leave, you can't change it. So it's kind of a weird give and take, I guess.
Maybe we should just win again. Probably that. And then maybe they'll get over it. I don't know.
I have no belief that I could possibly destroy the Democratic Party, and in the way that it would cease to exist. That would be a little insane. Nor is it even my goal to do so. I believe that we need a two-party system. We need at least two parties. The most healthy thing and great thing about America is bringing together a collection of brilliant minds and debating the best ideas and debating hey, we all have this common goal. What is the best way to achieve this common goal or to get to this place we want to go? Is it this idea or is it this idea? Well, let's take part of this idea and mix it with this idea. But we don't have any of that anymore. We now just have resist, 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 resist. Doesn't matter. I don't care if he's bringing more jobs. I don't care if unemployment's at an all-time low. I don't care how well African Americans and Hispanic Americans do. I don't care. Resist, resist, resist. It's sick. It's sick, and it's totally detrimental to the progress of this country. So what I want to do with WalkAway is, at the very least, get one of these two parties, that is to say the Democrat Party, to wake up and realizing that the tactics they're using are not working anymore. People hate it. It's divisive. It's destructive. And stop, for the love of God, manipulating minorities in this country. Knock it off. Because if you're really going to present yourself as the party that is about empowering the marginalized people of this country, then empower them to let them go. If you really care about empowering them, then you should be willing to look in the mirror and say, I want to empower them so much that we're willing to let them go and make their own choice. They'll never do that. They don't care about empowering minorities. They want to keep us under their control. And I want to put a stop to that too.
Thank you.
I'm not nervous, you're all nervous. So I've been thinking about it since watching the initial 6-minute video and just kind of thinking about it throughout your entire speech. And I was wondering, do you think that the WalkAway movement and just how we're kind of moving as a country necessarily would be different if, say, it wasn't Trump? Maybe for some reason Trump gets beat up by Ted Cruz of all things. Stick with me on that. But I'm wondering, yeah, stranger things have happened, people. But I'm wondering what your thoughts on that would be as far as, was Trump the necessary catalyst for WalkAway, you think, or do you think anyone could have been that?
100%.
All right.
100%. If Donald Trump had never been elected president, I would still be a liberal. And well, certainly if Hillary had won, nothing would have changed within me. I would have gone on believing that Rachel Maddow told the truth, and that Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon were telling the truth, and that everyone at Fox News were a bunch of liars.
Sorry.
And go ahead.
I was going to say worst journalist of the year, Don Lemon, worst journalist of the year.
Worst. He's the absolute worst. But here's something about Don Lemon that I always say. I actually have pity for Don Lemon. I have sympathy for Don Lemon, because I feel like they have meetings without him. Like I feel like Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper, they all go out for drinks and they're like, okay, what are we going to tell everyone tomorrow? What are we going to tell everyone tomorrow? And I don't think they ever include Don Lemon. He actually believes it. Like every day he goes on the air, he looks like he's about to start crying, and he's like, the Nazis are coming, white supremacy. Like he believes it. He's not in on the joke. Rachel Maddow knows she's full of shit. She knows she's lying. Anderson Cooper knows he's lying. They're in on the whole joke. They know it. But Don Lemon is left out in the cold by himself. It's very sad. But no, none of this would be happening if Donald Trump were not elected president. It took someone that extreme and that much of an outsider to shake all of this up. And if such an outsider and somebody so extreme had not jumped in and completely freaked out the media and freaked everybody out, we would never have watched them go into turbo mode, which is what ultimately opened my eyes. It took them. They thought they'd get away with it. I mean, the media just thought, like, okay, we've had them for this long. We've controlled these people for this long. Let's take it a step further. Let's take it a step. We've got to get Trump out. We've got to get Trump out. But this MAGA movement was just like unlike anything anybody's ever seen before. And so it took something that extreme, I think, for the media to completely go overboard and become completely unhinged. And then that's what woke me up and is waking up so many other people. So yeah, it's totally all about Trump.
I'm sorry, everybody. We do have to cut the Q&A session here. Yes. We will have a meet and greet section over in the back corner. If you have any questions, you want to come up and ask personally. If you want to take pictures with either of the speakers or hopefully both of them.
Yeah.
But before we end, I want to say this. do want to thank everybody in the vests trying to ensure that everybody has freedom of speech on Chico State's campus. Thank you for all the hard work you guys have put in. Thank you for trying to maintain order in everything that was happening the last couple days. Thank you.
Michael, can I say one more thing? Can I just say one more thing? First of all, I just want to say thank you all, everybody at Chico, for coming out tonight, number one. Anybody who helped facilitate this event happening, thank you so, so much. And I honestly want to give a very sincere and very heartfelt thank you to anybody who came here tonight because they oppose our message, they oppose our view, but just wanted to come out and try to open their minds and learn something. I think you're incredibly brave, and I'm incredibly grateful for you. So thank you so much.